First of all, thank you guys for taking the time. The initial scout is take a lot of Tylenol because they're they're a headache for sure. They're obviously a very good team. They're very, very well coached. Coach Beer does a heck of a job with their entire staff. They're very disciplined. They're very tough-minded, and they play incredibly hard. And so we're excited for the challenge, though. We know we have our work cut out for us. What a great opportunity. 2 years, and they have championship pedigree. 2 years ago, the last time there was an NCAA tournament, obviously they played in the national championship game. And on a personal level, I was there watching it, supporting a former player of ours in Matt Mooney. And we'll probably get into that more later. But, when you watch Texas Tech, you go from a sheer exhilaration on Selection Sunday with us being in at large and kind of riding that bubble for a long time. And we were in Las Vegas at our hotel watching the tournament and hopped on a plane later that night and flew to Indy and started watching them play. And of course, I've watched them at a distance over the course of time, certainly specifically once Matt joined the program. But you watch them play and I mean, they are very elite defensively. They're going to play man almost all the time. They play a little bit of zone, but for the most part, man pressure and get into you. They're going to switch almost all screens. Sometimes they don't switch with their 5, but they certainly are going to switch 1 through 4, and that's every screen. They're going to funnel you baseline. They have different ways that they'll double the post depending on the game, and they make life difficult. I mean, they just swarm to the ball. In a major way. They force 16 turnovers a game on the season, almost 14 a game in Big 12 play. And when they create those turnovers, most of the time, and I don't have an exact number, but it feels like they make you pay and get dunks and layups the other way real quick. So that'll be a big key for us is avoiding catastrophic turnovers or pick 6 turnovers, like we like to call them. We don't want our offense to be their best offense. And then on the offensive end, they run, of course they have some quick hitters, but predominantly going to be all motion. They're very disciplined that way. They take great shots. They share the ball. They're very balanced and they play well off of each other. They, our stance and vision is going to have to be on point, because as soon as you turn your head and you're staring at the ball and you lose vision of your man, they're back cutting for a layup or a dunk. And so we got to be just really, really disciplined on that end of the floor and try to make life as difficult as possible for them, which is easier said than done. And then we got to finish the possession. They're an elite offensive rebounding team. They get on the season, they offensive rebound 36% of their missed shots, which is that's a really, really high number. I think both teams are similar in that respect. And so rebounding is going to be a huge key to the game. Whatever team can hold their opponent to one and done, I think will be a major stat to track that way. So they do a good job getting to the free throw line. And so they put a lot of pressure on you from that respect. And then going back to the defensive end, on the year, their opponents shoot 41% from the field, which is a really, really good number. So they play a lot of guys. They're deep, they're athletic, and they're well coached, and that's a lethal combination. So, but we're going to compete. They want to make the game a street fight, and they do a great job with that. And I think we do a good job of making the game ugly. And so it makes for an interesting matchup. We're excited to go out there and compete and see what we can do against the best.
Hey, Jeff, did you want to lead off with that first question you had emailed?
Did you talk to me? Sorry.
Yeah. Do you want to lead off with that first question that you had emailed?
Okay.
Jeff, I missed your background. We need the Grand Tetons back there again.
Sorry. I could do the skyline of Cincinnati if you want.
That'll work too.
It's a little different. Just wondering, Coach, just if you could kind of contrast what you went through 2 years ago with the normal NCAA tournament to what this experience is like, and if there's maybe a benefit to that because maybe the players aren't as distracted or you're not out in the spotlight quite as much until you're on the court.
Yeah, 2 years ago, it was new for everybody. And as much as we said, I mean, obviously we came in to compete and try to win, but there was still a lot of like newness to it. And when the guys are talking about, the police escorts and all that stuff, and I'm a big believer in taking it all in. You got to be able to enjoy it. But then when there's work to get done, there's work to get done. And I felt like, once we won the conference tournament championship last year, our second year, I've just felt like there was a big time focus. And obviously, we didn't get the opportunity to do that. One thing that people forget with our program is we only have 4 guys on our team that have ever played in the NCAA tournament, and only 3 remain from that team 2 years ago, right? Brock Miller, Justin Bean, and Nemish Keita. Those are the only 3 guys that returned from that team. So, and then our 4th guy that's played is Marco Anthony, who was on the Virginia team that beat Texas Tech in the national championship game. So we still have a lot of newness. We have, the 11 of our 15 guys have never been here before. So it's new to them. The one thing I will say that is different, 2 years ago with the format up until this year, we got in 2 days ahead of time. I think we played on Friday and got in on Wednesday. Maybe it was Tuesday night. But it's kind of a boom, 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 you're on the floor. We've had this chance now. We played in the title game Saturday, didn't really do a lot Sunday, had a short kind of practice for the guys that didn't play a whole lot, got on a plane late arrived in Indy late that night. And we've had a chance to kind of settle in once we got past that quarantine. We did nothing on Monday because we were in quarantine with the NCAA protocol. Practiced Tuesday and Wednesday, of course, and this morning we practiced. So we've had a chance to settle in. Of course, there's a lot of excitement. And even, specifically in that first pass practice, just a lot of, I don't know if that's nervous energy, a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, but also just kind of this giddiness that we had to get over and get that out of our system because the guys are just so pumped. And so you get that out of the way. And so we've been able to be here now. Today's the 4th day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I think you just kind of settle in and get ready for the environment. Obviously, when you go out and play Texas Tech, I would say San Diego State's the closest team to Texas Tech that we've played, just with their athleticism and how good they are, period, but how specifically how elite they are on the defensive end. And it shows both those teams are top 25 programs in the country.
All right, Mitch, you're next with that question.
Yeah, Coach, Mitch Harper with KSL Sports. Appreciate you doing this. Was it good to get a visit to Assembly Hall already under your belt to take away the awe factor of such a historic gym?
It's interesting, Mitch. That's a great question. Yes, we were able to practice there Wednesday morning. And, I was an assistant in the Big Ten for 2 years at Nebraska. Both years we played at Indiana. And Brandon Ubel is our graduate assistant. He played at Nebraska. His first 2 years, they were in the Big 12, second 2 years in the Big 10. And we walked into Assembly Hall and Brandon Ubel goes, "Oh, I have nightmares of this place." He goes, "We got boat trucked my senior year." And we did. That was our first year at Nebraska, and they were able to win a game. But we had a Zoom call with our team on Monday night, just kind of talking shop. Hey, here's the protocols. We didn't exactly know each day the itinerary like we would normally know when we go on a road trip, and just ask, hey, what questions do you have? Going over the ticket situation, right? Just all these different things. And I said, guys, I think we found out when we landed where we were going to play and what time we were going to play. We found that out, 1 a.m. on, I guess you'd say Monday morning. And we brought up and talked about Assembly Hall because besides the two of us, nobody's ever coached a game at Indiana or played in a game there. And we told him, I think we got a really fortunate draw in terms of the location because, and I'm a history major, I'm a history guy when it comes to everything, nostalgia, tradition, all of that stuff. And so we talked about that with our team. the rich tradition of excellence of Indiana basketball in the history in that arena and how unique that arena is. And so when we got in, they walked us through, like we went by their practice facility and athletic training and all these tunnels. And of course you have the white and red stripes, everywhere. And you walk into that gym and literally everybody was like, wow, because it is such a unique layout, so to speak, and how steep those stairs are and the overhang. It almost looks like a theater with the way it hangs out. And, I think it seats roughly 17 or 18,000 people. And it doesn't really look like that. They're like, you are so packed in. And then on each side, all the bricks and the acoustics in there are so loud. I don't know how that'll affect our game, of course, with the limited fans. But we talked about that for, a decent amount of time on that Zoom call. And then when they saw that, that was pretty cool. And I thought it was really good to be able to get in there, get a full practice in. It wasn't just the 60-minute practice, so to speak, that you get in a normal year. So it was kind of nice to get that under the belt. And obviously Texas Tech had the same.
All right, Al, you want to fire away, please?
Coach, it sounds like your biggest concern in this game, and after what happened against San Diego State, is your offense. So passing the ball and then finding shots against these guys looks like the hardest thing you're talking about a little bit.
Well, I'd say it's multi-layered. We got to rebound. I mean, when you're going against a team that's offensive rebounding 36% of their missed shots, like that's high level, and they are very athletic. And so sometimes you can have perfect position, but they're still going to tip and find a way to get that ball. And when they get them, just like a lot of offense rebounds, right? You're able to score directly off of that. So that's a big one. And then obviously just on the offensive end, I mean, teams shoot 41% against them and they force 16 turnovers. So we're going to have to be sound, and we've clearly gotten better. I mean, when you have the 2 true freshman point guards and, a couple other guys that haven't played a lot coming into the season, obviously those freshmen are no longer freshmen, but it's still something that you got to negotiate. And I feel like as a whole, we've certainly improved in that area. But every now and then it rears its ugly head, so to speak. So just finding a way to score. And I think everybody that plays against Texas Tech would tell you the same. Like I was next to Mark Turgeon in an elevator today. He goes, "Who's your draw?" And he goes, "Texas Tech." He goes, "I was so glad we didn't have to play those guys." And he knows, right? And I'm not name dropping. I'm just saying, obviously everybody knows around the country how hard they play and how hard they are to score on and how disciplined they are. And so, we're going to have our work cut out for us, and it's going to be a tight battle, and you got to take advantage of opportunities when they arise.
All right, Bennett.
Hey, Coach. Bennett Conlon with the Daily Progress in Charlottesville, Virginia. Wanted to ask about Marco Anthony, what kind of lift he's given you guys this year on the court, but then also as a leader for you.
Marco's been tremendous. And I'd tell you, if he wasn't, he has been unbelievable for us. He came in, we recruited him out of high school when we were at South Dakota a little while, and built a little bit of a relationship with him. Went down and watched him play in an AU event. I told our assistant, Eric Peterson, who was the lead recruiter on him, like, we have no chance of getting this kid, to South Dakota. And shortly thereafter, Virginia offered him. And then I think the guy that was the lead recruiter for Marco, got a different job that summer. Anyway, long and the short of it, he had a great experience at Virginia, but was just looking for something different. When he hit the transfer portal, we were all over him right away. He's a great person. He's been a great leader. He's got a great voice. He's really intelligent. Everybody on the team respects him because of his character. He knows how to win, and he's a really good player. So he's a bit of a Swiss Army knife. He's a legit 6'5". When he first came to Utah State, he was 230 pounds. Now he's about 218. So he's really carved up. He's a big body, and he's a guy that can play a lot of different spots on the floor. We can play him we've played him at point guard, and we've had him play the 4 for us and everything in between. Certainly most of his time he's at a wing. He's a guy that typically guards the other team's best perimeter player. He's first team all-league defensive player in the Mountain West. And he's a stat stuffer. He can score it. His shot looks a little funky, but it's effective, and we feel very confident with him shooting the ball. He's a good passer. I think he's taken that to a different level here the last month or so. What was it? The first game of the conference tournament, I think he had 8 assists, and he's a good rebounder. What do you have? 6 offensive rebounds, I think, one of the games here recently. So he's a dynamic player and a guy that's a do-it-all type of guy. And if he wants, he'll have 2 years left, and that's exciting because I think he's just scratching the surface of how good he truly can become. And like you asked, Bennett, he's had a great voice. It's been a guy that's been such a role model for our, we have 7 freshmen in our program, counting Liam McChesney, who redshirted last year. He broke his leg. Otherwise, he'd be playing for us. But he's been a great mentor and a guy that those young guys really look up to. He's got a great voice for us.
All right, Carlos.
Hey, Coach. Carlos Silva from the Lubbock Avalanche Journal. You've already spoken about the challenge of trying to score on Texas Tech defense, but they obviously have to try and score on your defense, which is pretty good this year. Can you just speak to their guards, specifically Mac McClung, and what he's been able to do in terms of just making them successful on that side of the ball?
Yeah, Carlos, thanks for the question. We've had obviously this year we've taken it to a different level, but we've been one of the top defensive teams over the last couple years, over the last 3 years in the country. And, for a lot of reasons, we do it differently than Texas Tech, but we're effective nonetheless. And McClung he's a spark plug for him. He's got flair to his game, as you guys know, and he can really get it going in bunches. He's not afraid of the moment, and he's hit some big shots for them, of course, throughout the year. But he plays with high energy and high pace, and he's fearless in what he does. And, he can shoot the 3. He's got an excellent pull-up game, and obviously he can get to the rim and make plays for anybody. But the thing that stands out to me is he just always plays on attack. Like, he's just always on attack. And so you got to really be on point with him because he just doesn't take any plays off. And so when you relax, he's just coming at you, and the Shannon Jr. kid, that guy does so many things and he's so versatile. You can play him all over the floor. And, when you watch Texas Tech play, you're kind of like, and we're pretty big in positionless basketball. We have a point guard, but we have a multitude of point guards. And Texas Tech is kind of the same. It's like, well, who's their point guard in this lineup? Who's their 4-man? They're just so versatile, 1 through 4. And they can play a lot of different lineups. But Shannon's an electric player. He's so athletic and strong, and he shoots the 3, and he's got the pull-up game. He can get to the offensive glass. He just does everything. He's so dynamic that way. So, and then Edwards is shooting it at a high level and can do a lot of things. Again, he just brings him so much versatility. Can play him at the 1, 2, or the 3. And when you make a mistake on him, he usually makes you pay. So they have a lot of versatility, but yet their coaching staff has done a really good job of they're all so different. So it works really well where they can blend together and they all feed off each other. And then they bring, those other guys off the bench that are dynamic as well. So you just got to really be on point with them.
Okay, Ajay.
Hey, Coach.
Coach hey, Ajay,
Chris,
you finished that book yet?
I'm at page 350, so I'm just over halfway there.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
It's a good book. Chris Beard was very complimentary about you as a coach. Considers you a friend within the business. Wonder if you can talk about him, your relationship with him, and I don't know how parallel your careers are with each other, but he thinks the world of you, and wonder what your thoughts are on him. Well, Chris obviously has an amazing track record. He's done it everywhere he's been.
He's a basketball guy through and through. He's a junkie. That's easy to see. It's easy to see from a distance. It's also easy to feel, right? When you watch an interview or you see his teams play, like you feel that energy and that passion. And, it's really interesting. He's a guy I've always looked to. Their teams I've followed from a distance, specifically since Matt has been back. But two things with him, or specifically when Matt Mooney went to Texas Tech. So a lot of people know the Matt Mooney story. Matt had one scholarship offer out of high school, went to Air Force Academy, was there 2 years, 1 year as a prep school cadet, and then played about 18 minutes as a freshman. He had a lot of offers and looks. He came to us at South Dakota. He had a great, redshirted, really improved his redshirt year, had a really good sophomore and junior year, first-time all-league guy. We got hired at Utah State. Obviously, we tried like crazy to get him. That would have been a heck of a backcourt with Mooney and Sam Merrill. But he thought we were going to be rebuilding like everybody did. We were picked 9th in that preseason. And he wanted to go to a place where he felt like he could play at the highest level, play for a really good coach, and play in the NCAA tournament. Like Matt made a comment to me at South Dakota, I don't know if I'll ever be able to live with myself if I can't play in an NCAA tournament. And which might sound a little but that's Matt. And he went to Texas Tech. And I asked him after, why'd you choose Texas Tech? He goes, Coach, honestly, Chris Beard reminds me a lot of you. Just with your personality and your passion and so on and so forth. And I was like, come on, Matt, why'd you really go? He goes, no, that was a huge reason. And Chris would call the various states, tell me about Matt. And then once they already had Matt, hey, tell me more about Matt. We're having a hard time with him with this. Or what are some sets that you ran that you really liked for Matt? And I give Chris a lot of credit. They already had Matt. And he would still call just to make their team better or to help Matt become better. And so that was really cool. And obviously it was at the Final Four and watched them play. And then another quick story, when Coach Beard was an assistant at Texas Tech with Pat Knight, they recruited a guy named Teran Petaway. And Teran committed to Texas Tech. I was at Colorado State. And we had recruited Teran for 2 years, got to know I had spent more time in Galveston, Texas with Teran and his family and Mike Evans, who made an official, Mike Evans, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver. He made an official visit for basketball to us. And he went to Texas Tech, and then they were let go. And they hired Billy Gillespie, and Teran honored that commitment, but it just didn't work out the way he had hoped. And Teran transferred. His dad called and said, hey, Teran's transferring, would you guys take him at Nebraska? That I went from Colorado State to Nebraska in that year and talked to Coach Miles, and we were like, absolutely. We brought Teran in, and getting to know, Teran's father Terry, Teran's mother Joetta has since passed away, had always said, you and Chris Beard remind me of Chris Beard. And so I'm not trying to beat my own. That's them talking. That's not me talking. But it's interesting, the 6 degrees of separation and how it kind of came full circle a little bit from that respect. So I remember, and I don't know if Chris remembers this or not, but I had just gotten hired as the head coach at South Dakota. And Chris was, I believe, a junior college head coach, or maybe it was at Angela State. I don't remember which one. But we were staying in the same hotel in Dallas at the Final Four. And we crossed each other in the parking lot. And Chris literally said, hey, are you Craig Smith? And I'm like, yep. I was just by myself. He goes, hey, I think very highly of you. The Petaways loved you. And congrats on all your success, your team's success at Nebraska. And congrats on getting the South Dakota job. And it's just funny how that 45-second compliment or comment still resonates, with me. I just remember that him just going out of his way to say that was a pretty cool thing. So always pulling for him, except against the Aggies. Obviously, he does a heck of a job and just treats people the right way in every way, shape, and form.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, we've got 3 more. So Al, and then Mitch, and then we'll finish up with Alex.
Coach, I was going to ask you about all of their personnel. You did that. So how do they match up, do you think, with Nemi? How do they take care of Nemi in this game?
Well, they'll do it, I think, a lot of different ways. Obviously they're very athletic. The Silva kid, we were prepared. We played VCU the first game of the year. So getting ready for VCU, I saw a lot of film on him. And so when I started watching Texas Tech, I don't look at their roster right away. I just watch film. I want to formulate my own opinion on our opponent first, but I kept looking at this kid like, I know who that kid is. And then when I saw he was a VCU transfer, I was like, that's where I knew him. But, him and PV and Tyreek Smith, and they'll throw a lot of different guys at him, but, they'll double the post, and I'm guessing, I don't know that, and force them to the baseline, which we've seen a lot this year. I mean, we've seen about every kind of double team imaginable. Nemi's a legit 6'11". Obviously their centers are not quite that size in terms of height, but they just do it differently. I'm guessing they're going to bring some pressure to him and make him play in a double or maybe even a triple team, who knows? Or they might just say, we're going to play him one-on-one. But they do a lot of different things. Like I said at the top, they're not afraid to switch 1 through 5 ball screens. They're not afraid to switch 1 through 5 down screens, flare screens, anything of the sort. So they're well trained. They're used to playing against big guys in the Big 12 all the time. And they'll do it in different layers, so to speak, with different doubles and different guys rotating on them.
Coach, what lessons or self-evals have you personally learned from your program's experience in this tournament 2 years ago that you feel will maybe put your team in a better position for success this time around?
Well, you know what, Mitch, I think the biggest thing is, and we only have 4 guys that played in this tournament, but it's become the expectation. That first year, that was our goal. Not only, and our goal every year is get to the NCAA tournament and win when we get there. Right, that's the goal. Get to the NCAA tournament and win when we get there. And we've been steadfast with that message from the day we got hired almost 3 years ago, March 28th of 2018, I think. But that we've been steadfast with that, and we've been able to do it for 3 straight years. But obviously, because of last year's pandemic, this is only the second year playing. But that's become the expectation. That's what we recruit to. That's what we talk about. It's not just, and it's not, now we don't just talk about it, we do it. And so our guys expect to be here and are excited to be here. And that's the standard of Utah State basketball.
All right, Alex, do you want to finish this out?
I would love to. Hello, Craig. How are you?
Hey, Alex.
But before I ask my question, I just wanted to say that I think it's kind of cool that that your mom is helping do some cooking at your old high school. I heard that yesterday, so that was a nice little story.
She loves to cook. I always tell her, Mom, you retired 4 or 5 years ago. Like, why do you? Well, I can't go here because I'm working. I can't go. I was like, you're retired. I think she works more now. Well, she doesn't work more now than she used to. But anyway.
Yeah. In terms of matchups and basketball games and things like that, I think everybody can talk and ask ad nauseum about what's this matchup here, defense, offense. But a lot of times these types of games come down to who wants it more. So like, how do you measure that during a game or before a game? Like, how can you measure if the Aggies want it more?
Well, I know we're going to want it badly, and I know they're going to want it badly, and I think that's the DNA of both programs. We talk obviously at Utah State about a Gator mentality, get after their, and I would say they have the same type of mentality. I mean, just you are what you emphasize, and I think there's a lot of the same emphasis on both teams. Now it becomes who's quicker to the ball. Right? Who's more instinctive to the ball? Who's the most disciplined team? And then just who can make the most plays? I know both teams are chomping at the bit. Texas Tech hasn't played for it'll be probably 8 days, I think, maybe something like that. and both teams are sitting in this bubble where it was quarantine until you get the second positive test, but it's kind of become Groundhog Day a little bit, where you're kind of doing the same old thing and you're all in your own room and you try to keep them occupied without being over the top. But all the anticipation, the excitement, obviously it's tipping off tonight with those 2 games, and there's going to be tremendous enthusiasm and excitement. I know we're ready to play. I know they're going to be ready to play. And then it comes down to execution and being sound and being fundamental, and then finding a way to finish plays and not to. You're right, Al. We told our guys at the end of practice, like, I know we're ready, but now you got to execute, right? I know they're going to be ready and they got to execute, and you just got to play with tremendous ferocity and determination, and they're going to make some runs and we're going to make some runs, but you just got to be able to stay the course. And then, like we say at the end, you just got to find a way to win.
Coach, if you humor me, I had 4 questions that were emailed in, which I think would be beneficial for the group.
Okay.
Questions.
Carlos is over there getting impatient with me already. Like, does this guy ever shut up?
So both teams are defensive minded. Is it easier or more difficult to prepare for a team with a similar style of play?
That's a great question. Probably harder. I mean, I can see both sides of it, but these guys are hard. I mean, you sit there and, hey, can we get him here? Can we get him here? Can we get it? How can we attack him? Can we get him with this kind of screen and roll action? How can we get him in the post? Where can we get him with the end? There's just not a whole lot of holes, I mean, it's just, and so you just sit there and you just got to take advantage of those opportunities when you get them, and the reason I say it's harder, we hang our hat on defense. We know defense travels. So that's our philosophy. Obviously we have proven we can score too, but when you're elite defensively, man, it makes life really, really difficult.
The next question was Tech's pretty balanced offensively, although led by Mac McClung. Is there a comparison within the Mountain West in how Texas Tech runs their offense?
Is the question, is there a comparison of how they run their offense or a comparison of McClung?
How they run their offense.
Okay.
It's what kind of adjustments you have to make against their offense, and who would you compare them to?
Honestly, we compare them to us on the offensive end. They're very balanced. You have 4 guys that are at 10 points or higher on the year. We're very balanced as a team. It's not uncommon for us to have 5 guys in double digits. That's happened, 4 to 5. That's happened many, many times throughout the year. I would say we're a hybrid offensively. We have a few more we have more sets than them, but the way they play is very free. And I would say we're a hybrid of motion offense and dribble drive. And I would use the same comparison to them. They're probably a little more motion than we are, but still a lot of similarities. Like that, they're going to run plenty of random ball screens within their motion. They're going to throw it inside within their motion. They'd set a lot of down screens. They set some flare screens. They're active cutters away from the ball. And so I would compare them in our conference on the offensive end to us, to be quite frank. He's on the Bobby Knight coaching tree, Pat Knight coaching tree. And that's obviously what he's very much known for. So, I think we go against that almost every day, daily in practice when we're practicing against ourselves. So I think there's a lot of similarities. Now, maybe the personnel isn't exactly the same, right? Like, I mean, they have some higher level athletes up and down their lineup than we do, as you would expect. And so, but when it comes to just sheer style of play, I'd compare them to us.
Perfect. Okay, this last one is specifically about Nemish. So his points, he's known for his defensive prowess, but his points per game have increased by around 2 points each season. So what has impressed you the most about that offensive development?
Well, he loves to be in the gym. He works hard at it. Certainly this year, he's been more of a primary scorer for us. And so he's gotten more touches down there. Last year as a sophomore, he was negotiating his injury and just trying to survive, so to speak, to get through that injury. And as a freshman, he weighed 218 pounds, at 6'11". And so he didn't have the girth to just consistently get in there and bang with the big boys, and he didn't have the stamina to be able to play the minutes that he's playing right now. And then he's fine-tuned his game. I mean, he's a very good finisher to both hands, whereas a freshman, he wasn't. He could finish with his right hand, but not nearly as consistent with his left hand. And he's just a better finisher now. And part of it's because his touch has really improved, but a lot of that too is his strength. He just doesn't get bumped off his spot, like he used to. He's able to get a deeper position. And we've all seen his touch has really improved over the course of this offseason and even throughout the season. He's able to make 15 to 17 footers, knock on wood. He's been knocking down free throws at a high rate, specifically the last 2 months of the season. And his offensive rebounding has gotten much better. And I think a lot of that just is strength. So now you add 2 points a game just on offensive boards, 2 to 4 points. It all starts adding up quickly. And I'd say he's even become a better scorer here in the last 6 weeks or so. So when you add that all in, and there's a reason he stayed here all summer, and didn't go back to Portugal at all, but he's really rounded out his game in a major way.